You know, one of my goals has always been on this boat to get it a little safer and easier to travel on and to sail on. One of the problems I've had though is this old compass. This new one in, it just doesn't work that way. Now these compasses are designed to be installed where this angle here is 90 degrees. So to pull this out and just pop this in, my bulkhead is at a little bit of an angle. I need to make a fairing block. Well, what's a fairing block? Well, I've come up with 3 different methods on how to make it, but we're going to just use one right here. And that is this block here where when this sits on here, it's going to make this level. I'm pretty close to this. I've already done a little work on it. Now we're not just going to pull this out. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to put a little tape here and a little tape here for the center line. It's very important, keep this in mind, to have this compass lined up parallel with the center of the boat. In other words, if the compass is sitting kittywampus like this, it's reading from this angle. We want it reading dead ahead. So we want to make sure that this is balanced first. And when I put this fairing block together, I made a line, I came down the center line. So I want this, when I put this on, I don't want to have it like this or like this, because then that's going to cause the compass to be misaligned. Now it's not that difficult to do. The hardest part has been getting this angle cut. Now at the boat yard I'm at, they happen to be working on a wooden boat, and they have some scrap material that I was able to use. I glued it together, and the shipwright cut this for me on a bandsaw. That's why I came up with a couple other ideas on how to make the fairing plate in case you don't have that type of thing here, and we'll go over the other fairing plates in a little bit. Then I'm going to work on cutting this hole out, which should be a lot of fun. I'm not going to bore you with all of that. All right, let's get to work. Well, here are some of the base tools that we're going to need for the job. Now, another thing to keep in mind as we attach this fairing plate and attach a compass, don't use metal screws or magnetic type of things, because that's going to cause an issue with the compass. You want to use non-metal screws or non-magnetic type of screws so that it doesn't affect the performance of the compass. Now what I want to do here is just kind of show you, if you don't have this compass set just right, what happens. You can kind of see what it's reading right now. If I turn it a little bit like this, you see you get false readings here. If it's sitting out, if it's not parallel to the center line, probably if you look at 300, you get the better idea here. Now if I put it in and I tip it the other way a little bit, you see I'm off a few degrees. That can make a big difference when you're headed on a long course. And the same with not having it set at 90 degrees. You see how we're off here a little bit. So we're going to take some pains and make sure that this is set up correctly. Now I used a level and a piece of cardboard to determine the base angle for the fairing plate. Now this may be off a little, but we can do some adjustments after the block is cut. You may not have access to that big a piece of wood, so another idea is I took a couple pieces of insulated foam and a piece of plywood. I put them together. You just epoxy these together, let them sit, and you can use this. The reason you have the wood on the front, so you have something for the screws to hold into. So now a third method might be use plywood, pieces of plywood, several pieces, just start cutting them together. Put those together, and then you could do the whole thing and you could cut it. Next, I check the fairing plate for plumb. This is our foundation for the compass. It's got to be right. Next, I wired the 2 compass lights to the DC panel. Red to red, black to black. After taping them together, I used a little bit of shrink tubing to keep it all together and to make it watertight. And as for the gap, I just put some caulk around it. Now this is going to be great to have a compass I can read from just about anywhere in the cockpit.